Gary, thanks a lot for coming down and talking about your participation in the faculty athletic program.
Yeah, thanks, Peter, for having me in. This is one of the greatest things I've done, I think, in the last 5 years for my own career, and it's a privilege to be able to talk about it.
Let me ask you as a first question, what do you see as the value of athletics in supporting the greater mission of the institution, and that is to educating the whole individual or student?
Yeah. You know, I think if I look back on my own academic career, I would have to admit that I really didn't understand or appreciate the place of athletics. I honestly thought that the mission of the college was simply to cultivate excellent curriculum in the classroom, and frankly, I thought that we were training the minds of our students. But I think what I've learned over the years is that there are a lot of other things that are going on inside of a college, and if we are going to form young men and women to be mature, to be lovers of God, followers of Christ, then there has to be more than just the classroom at play. And that has given me increasing respect for student development, because there are programs inside of the dorms, just on campus, which are significant for them. But in addition to that, the athletic department plays a role in helping to, I think, form a certain segment of our student body in ways that we just don't even see as professors sometimes. At least I never saw it personally.
Right.
And I think the faculty partner program let me, I guess, cross a bridge between the academic community, crossing a gulf, as it were, into the athletic community, and it permitted me to see things going on there that I had never seen. And I think those things that I witnessed convinced me that the formation of our students is really happening there, and it's pretty dramatic. I think we have to ask ourselves, does God simply want to see the transformation of our minds? Is our minds simply the only gateway through which God is at work? I think there are a lot of other gateways. And if we believe in the completeness of our bodily life, that our physicality, our life socially together, my inner spiritual workings, and the growth of my own mind, if these things are all operating together, then I become a complete person. And I think the athletic program contributes to that wholeness for a great number of our students.
I like the way you've talked about how athletics in some ways is helping fill out the development of students. In what ways do you think, if any, that athletics has a unique contribution? Because in the classroom there's primarily mental development going on. In athletics, I think a lot of people would say this is primarily a physical environment.
Yeah.
But as I think you would say...
No, I don't. I mean, that's the easiest thing to say. I see these guys, you know, the suited up on the field playing football. I see the women in a basketball team. And I think, this is just about on the court, on the field. It's all about physicality. That's probably the myth that shattered first when I got into the faculty mentoring program, partnership program. It was that I realized that the relationship that these women, in my case I was on the women's basketball team, the women's, their relationship with each other, the coach's relationship with them, the kinds of formation that go on in terms of thinking together as a group. You have a problem as a group. That is, how do we defeat North Central? And we solve that problem, but you can't not do it individualistically. So you end up thinking that we have to find the gifts that we have inside of the group. We want to cultivate and encourage those gifts. We want to encourage each other, and we move together as a team. Those are life skills that have little to do with the combat on court, but it is a life skill that's going to serve me when I move through all of the challenges of my life. So I saw, in my case, the women who were playing basketball not just simply as gladiators on the court, but they were instead young women who were learning how to collaborate in complex ways. And their coach, in our case, Ken Manston, an enormously skilled coach, he was able to guide that formation and that teamwork. I think as an academic, I kind of trivialize the idea of teamwork. But teamwork really means collaboration. It means community building. It means strengthening our own gifts and encouraging each other. And if that's what comes out of a team, my goodness, that's what I need and want for the rest of my life.
Tell us how you got involved in the faculty partnership program.
Well, when we started the program, I don't know, 5 years ago maybe, since I grew up around basketball, I played it myself. A lot of family members played it. I was asked to join the women's basketball team. Well, I guess I didn't join the team. I don't have a uniform. But what happened was I decided to support the team players. And the concept that caught me initially was this. I'd recognized over the years that there was this gap, really, that has multiple dimensions between the academic house and the athletic house on our campus. And many of the students are more comfortable maybe in the athletic house than in the classroom. And so as a faculty member, I was choosing to enter their world. And honestly, I had never stepped into that world before. I'd never been invited into that world. And before I knew it, I knew the names of all the players. I knew the coaches personally. I was stopping in at their practices once in a while for a couple of minutes, and they'd all welcome me and greet me. And then I would go to most of their home games, and occasionally I would travel to a near travel game. And I found that the more I was doing that, a couple things happened. I learned about basketball. Women's basketball is a different sport than men's basketball, I think. And I began to learn about the private lives of all of the players in this project. And trust was built. And I found that these were really enriching relationships for me. I really liked every dimension of it. And besides, I was just having fun. I was going to a basketball game, and I knew the players, and I cared about how they were doing. I knew where the injuries were on the team, and I knew which injuries were getting worse, and who was limping, and who was sore. I knew all this stuff. And for me, the most fun came when I began to be invited by Kent, the head coach, behind the scenes. So before I knew it, I was in the locker room with the whole team in the pregame talk. And at halftime, I was in the locker room. And after the game, we were processing stuff. And I began to see the living organism that is a team. And I think you can go to 100 basketball games as a spectator. But if you haven't been behind the scenes to see that living organism, you're really missing most of what's going on. So for me, the Faculty Partner Program was a chance to see things I'd never seen before. And I wish that every faculty member at Wheaton had that opportunity. Because if it did happen for you, if it does happen for you, it will change the way you think about everything that goes on in the athletics field.
As you speak, I think about incarnational living, about going into a world that is not your normal. And
that's right.
There is some uncomfortableness with that at the beginning, but once you enter that world, there's some acceptance. You develop relationships.
Yeah.
There's a sweetness there. Oh,
it's really sweet. Yeah. You really, but you have to make the decision to sign up, to join, to step across the bridge. And what the program does is invites us to make that first step. And I am just so totally glad that I did. But yeah, you begin to know that you're invited into the inner circle. Here's an example of what it's like to show up at a practice and have all the women sort of cluster around and say, "Hey, Dr. Burge, we're glad you're here." And then one of them says, "Let's see what you got." And I'm like, "What do you mean, what do you see?" They throw you the ball, and from about 20 feet out, they say, "Let's see if you can put it in." It was hilarious. Of course, I did not put it in. But it was like they were, it was you having the initiative and them giving you the embrace of welcome. And when that happens, you take a risk, you step into a new environment that makes you a little nervous, I'll admit. And then you experience that embrace of welcome. That's a marvelous thing. that's a really marvelous thing.
You already alluded to this, but you've described your relationship with the coach,
Yeah.
Madsen, and with the players. Let me ask you a more specific question. If a faculty partner is new on a team,
Right.
what would you say would be the one or two critical steps to develop this kind
Right.
of relationship?
Yeah. I think the first thing that has to happen is you want to build a relationship with a coach. And it means becoming good friends, having lunch together. For all of the coaches on the team, actually, we have two primary coaches, Katie and Kent, and that means getting to know them. And friendship then develops trust. That's the first thing that's important for me. The second thing is that I want to be able to respect the boundaries that coaches have. This is their domain.
Right.
And there are private areas that they are working with the students, and I don't just insert myself into all of that. So I never attended, for instance, one of the locker room talks. In the first 3 years, I was doing this. And I think that is a domain that's boundaried, I think, by the coaches, and rightly so.
Right.
And so I think I need to be respectful because I am also a visitor when I'm there. And as those overtures of welcome increase, then I can step further in. So I think that all comes about, though, if a strong friendship evolves. Right. And that means spending time. It really does mean spending time. And for me, as a faculty member, that means stopping in at practice. I mean, if it's 4:45 and I know they're in the gym, I know their rhythm of their team. And I think to myself, I can go to the parking lot, or I can go over to the gym, and I can just stand there for 10 minutes and say, you guys look great. And that's all I do. It means if they have a great win or a loss, which is painful, I send the whole team an email. And I've set that up in advance. I send them all an email. It means that I understand the rhythm of the coaches' lives. I think that as faculty members, we don't realize that, like we have pressures to publish and to attend conferences, the coaches have pressures on them too. The pressures surround things like recruitment. There's real pressure to win, even though we like to say this is about character formation and fun. Believe me, at Wheaton, we like to win.
Right.
And when we go to North Park and kill them in their gym, kill them in a Christian way, we really do celebrate that. And so as a coach, having a winning season is important to them. They have pressures, and so I want to be an empathic listener, and I want to be a genuine support to the coach that I'm with. And actually, it goes the other way, because coaches don't really understand the athletic side of the house, the academic side of the house either. And so as I begin listening to our coaches, actually they were very interested and curious about my world. And so I think that crossing the bridge came with some reciprocity. I noticed that they started crossing the bridge back. And that meant then that gap that lives between athletics and academics, that gap became sort of smaller because everyone involved was listening to the other.
I want to follow up on that, because I think this reciprocity in relationships, it's a critical piece.
Oh, yeah.
There has to be some give, and there's also take. What would you want coaches to know about a faculty's life?
Yeah. I think coaches don't always understand the kinds of pressures that are in a faculty member's life. The busyness which is there. It's easy for someone outside of the academic arena to look at our world and say, for heaven's sakes, you're only standing in front of the students for 10 hours a week. What could be easier than this? But they don't realize that we also have to participate in our academic discipline. They don't understand the kinds of preparation that goes into that necessarily. They don't realize also, for instance, that Wheaton is a highly social community. And students have expectations that they can come and see you and be in your office and maybe have lunch with you. And so I think that I would hope that coaches, and I think Kent and Katie have learned that, I hope through me, that being on the faculty is a hard and demanding job, just like being a coach.
Right.
is a hard and demanding job, and that there's a possibility here on this campus that we can support and encourage each other.
Last question. A faculty athletic partner has a team, has a group of students, and as you've said, there's a developmental process. You don't go in, the first month and have these deep and meaningful relationships. What would you say to a faculty partner who's having a little bit of a rough go at developing a meaningful relationship with the coach and the players?
Right. Yeah, sometimes that happens, I think, Peter. You might be affiliated with a team where things are not going quite so well. I happen to be very fortunate. The women's basketball team is very welcoming, and the coaching staff has just given me a green light to come right in, so I was fortunate. But I can imagine that it might be hard sometimes. I think this is probably how I would handle a thing like that. I think, on all of our teams, we have more than one coach, and I think that there are some folks who are more receptive to your coming in and have perhaps stronger intuitive social skills for that kind of thing. Then there's some that are less so. And I think what you want to do is look at the coaching staff and ask, perhaps an assistant coach is the one you need to talk to understand the chemistry of the team. So what I need to figure out is, what is the chemistry of the team, the rhythm of its leadership, and who is it in the team that give me access to those rhythms? But if things are really not working well and you can't find that access, Julie Davis, our athletic director, is amazing. She is a fantastic person who understands the academic side of the house, and she can assist with that too. She can give you insight into how social realities work in the gym. I think yourself, Peter, you're somebody who has a long career in the athletic side of the house, but you also are living in the academic side of the house. You are somebody who can interpret these things for us. So I think if a faculty member was struggling a bit, talking to Julie and Peter would be would be a great step to make. I'm convinced, though, I really am, that we don't have a single team or a single coaching staff that would not like to make this work. I'm really convinced of that. Because I've been over there near Kent's office and been in the gym more than ever before, I've met some of the other coaches. And what's fascinating is they have seen that I'm involved with the women, and they have been really welcoming to me, and they're not even on my team. So it dawned on me, the fact that I'm stepping into one team means I am affirming the entire athletic enterprise. And the other coaches have noticed that, and they've been really pleased. So I suspect that you could actually go from one team and get to know lots of other coaches.
Gary, having watched you do this for 5 years, I will say, and I've talked with Julie Davis about this as well, you have demonstrated what a model relationship looks like. Yeah. So thank you for your good work, and we wish you the very best.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Okay.
All right.
Good.